Hello, and welcome to the Faith and Fun podcast, where we talk about balancing everyday life with bliss. I'm so excited for my first guest that I have. But right before we go to him, I want to tell you a little bit about me. So I'm 25. My name is Mandarius McGriff. I am from Lancaster, South Carolina. I love God, and He loves me too. So the reason for this podcast is so many young people are into the church and into walking with God, but they don't know how to balance everyday life, or they don't want to know how to get through life but still have a little fun and still live a normal life. Because a lot of people say there is no fun with trusting God and walking with God and having a relationship with Him. So I wanted to start this podcast to let you know that it is fun on this side. So the guest that I have for you today is a guy that I met doing Uber, but I've always seen him from Lancaster. Like I said, Lancaster's this big, so everybody gonna see each other at least once or twice. His name is Evan Austin. Some of you may know him if you're from Lancaster. Evan Austin, he's a native of the Red Rose City, Lancaster. You know, the big city, LA. He is the son of Aaron and Felice Austin and the brother of Marcus Austin. Evan is a graduate of Coastal Carolina University in 2019 with a bachelor's degree in psychology. In the same year that Evan obtained his greatest achievements, he obtained his greatest loss from a car wreck on July 13, 2019. He aspires to inspire in everything that he does, and that is what he is in pursuit to bring forth every time he speaks. So, Evan, thank you for joining me. I'm so glad that you can be here. Tell me a little bit about Evan. I know what I read, but tell me about Evan from Evan.
First of all, just thank you for being here. I'm so excited about everything you got going on with the Faith and Fun podcast. Um, Pretty much with me is what you see is what you get. I'm a very passionate person. I seek purpose in everything. That's why I aspire to inspire. Like you and I, the conversation we had even off camera, we talk about things, and it's like there's always a deeper meaning. There's a deeper root. You know what is the purpose of what we have going on? There's a purpose that we right here, right now,
Right,
together in this
right.
moment in time. You know.
So, tell me about the wreck.
Mhm.
Tell me about the days leading up to it and the moments or the weeks before the moments with God. Because I know last year off camera we talked about you questioning your purpose and
Mhm.
all of that. So, tell me about all of that and how it led up to the wreck.
Yeah. The wreck was a wreck. It wrecked my life. It derailed everything that I had going on at that time. And even before then, like I honestly do not remember the wreck. Everything that I know about my own wreck and everything I've been through is from my mother, my father, and my entire family. So my mother was actually in the wreck with me. My mother was the driver. I was the passenger. Um, we were at a stoplight in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We were just on our way. She said that we were actually picking up some tools and stuff for some of the kids going back to school type stuff. And I had just graduated, got a job, and all that good stuff, and that happened, and it derailed everything that I had going on at that time. So we were at a stoplight. We were car number 4. Car number 5 comes up and hits us at 65 plus miles per hour, never touched the brakes.
So, while you're stopped, you're at a stoplight.
We're at a stoplight, green nowhere to be found.
Oh my
A
God.
red light, a red light. Uh, Allegedly, that individual that was driving that vehicle had a seizure. Um, and as someone who still to this day, I'm weaning off of medication, but I, had a seizure while in those medically induced comas and stuff like that. And I'm still on medication to this day. And it took me so long to even get back to driving and stuff because of that medication. And anybody that's ever been on that type of medication knows that you're not supposed to be driving within a certain window of having a seizure. Um, that's neither here nor there at this point.
Yeah. So, okay, so the wreck happened,
hmm
and instantly you were rushed to the hospital and put in a coma.
Yeah. So I was in a coma. I was dead, bro. Like I was gone at that point in time. So it's a lot of moving parts to that. and I would love to have my mother in here, to kind of tell her side of
Yeah.
it as well one day. But apparently, the wreck happened. My mother, they had to pull out the jaws of life to get her out of the vehicle. They had to cut her out of the car. They took me, immediately airlifted me to CMC, and they took my mother to the Rock Hill Hospital.
Wow.
I'm my mother's only child. You know what I'm saying? So, and then finding out more about that day, we were actually supposed to go, we were on our way to go meet my father for lunch. He works in Rock Hill. So you got all these different moving parts. And my mother ends up going to the hospital there in Rock Hill, apart from me. She don't know where I am. The last time my mother said that she saw me, I was slumped over on her. She gets to Rock Hill. She says she's screaming, going on, doing the whole nine. Who wouldn't? And she says, she's asking people, where's my baby? Where's my baby? And, people running around looking for an infant.
Right.
And this happened to me when I was 22 years old.
Wow.
One of my talking points when I speak is 22 years gone in 22 seconds.
Wow. That's good.
22 years of life that I worked for, that my family invested, that the community of Lancaster and family and everything else invested into me was gone that quick. And that was something that was outside of my control.
So 22.
Yeah, you can find.
That was good.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Say that one more time. 22 years gone in 22 seconds.
22 years going in 22 seconds. So that's 22 years of, working out for football, going through school, high achieving, anything you can name up for 22 years, and it was gone. And not only was it gone, is those 22 seconds that it took for that 22 years to be gone don't come back in 22 seconds. This year, July 13th will be year 6 of my journey. And I probably didn't start feeling like me again until year 3.5 or 4. And do you have younger siblings?
I do. I'm the oldest, so I have 5. Wait. Yeah, 5 younger siblings. Yeah.
So at 22 years old, I had to relearn everything. And I'm somebody that's completely independent. Like I'm career focused, I'm driven, I'm self-motivated, and I'm about mine. I'm gonna go get it. And that's part of the reason why I'm alive now, because I'm a survivor. I just go after it. But just everything I had to go through with that, and it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough.
So there's a song by Rich Tolbert that I've been listening to often now, and the lyrics are "I'm alive because there's more," and that part just does something to me, because people go through so much, and so much happens to people, and they barely make it, and they wonder and they question, and they're trying to figure out, why in the world am I still here? And it's simply because they have more. And I believe that you are never supposed to die in the wreck. Clearly, because you're still here.
Absolutely.
But I believe that sometimes he alters or maybe even resets our plan or our life so that we can fully, live for him. So I remember also, we talked off camera, you were telling me about how you wanted to be a public speaker, but had nothing to speak about. And so it's like, often, I always say this now, be careful what you ask for.
Absolutely.
Because we just go around planting these seeds, and oftentimes people always say, I want to be like you, or I want to live like you, or I want the stuff you have, but you don't know, and people don't know what they had to go through to get what they got. People don't know how many times people have to cry or have to suffer or lose or deal with what they had to go through just to be where they are.
Absolutely.
So I believe do you believe that is why the wreck happened, or how do you feel?
Everything serves purpose, and the sooner that we realize that in life, the easier things will be to digest. Put it like that, you take the bigger picture and making it wallet size. So that was kind of it started off as a coping mechanism. You know, it's like everything serves purpose. That's the way I lived my life before, but definitely it enhanced after the wreck. And just understanding that everything happens for a reason. My pastor, John Lee Rose Jr., he every Sunday he talks about how everything passes through God's perfect filter. Nothing happens that God does not know about.
Oh, that's
You know what I'm
good.
saying? God is already at your destination. He knows the plans for your life, you know? So going through all of that and just understanding that, okay, this is all a part of my purpose. And not only a part of my purpose, but the way God, he's funny. He's funny. So the way that he aligned everything in my life up until that point prepared me for that moment.
Really?
I'm extremely big on preparation. I didn't start thinking about this podcast this morning when I woke up.
Yeah.
As soon as you hit me up and saying, all right, okay, you know, let's get it together. So when I think about everything that I've gone through in my life, you know, family situations, even I can't tell you how many doctors, I'm talking about like the highest ranking doctors have told me, if you would have kept yourself in any less shape than what you did, you wouldn't be here right now. If this would have happened to the right side of my brain, I would have lost my ability to speak. I would have been paralyzed. I was paralyzed. The right side of my body was paralyzed. I had to regain all my motor skills. And going through all of that, you know, and I go back, I associate a lot of things with sports, especially the game of football. Football is like life. So even going back, and I played in college for my freshman year. I went to Lenore University before transferring over to Coastal Carolina. And I think, you know, if I would have had one more concussion, you know, if I would have had one more big hit, or, you know, just kept playing the game of football and kept damaging my brain in that manner, like, who's to say things would have turned out the same way? You know, so just going through that process and finding things to be grateful for in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm a big picture guy. I will always be a big picture guy. But the thing about seeing the big picture is you miss the smaller details within it.
That's
you know what I'm saying? You don't really get to see the fine tunes and how the painter went over this, you know, over and over, and that one spot just to make it perfect. You know, to our eye, you know, our untrained eye is like, okay, that looks great, that's amazing, that's beautiful, and the painter's like, no, it's not quite right.
Because they don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know what it took
to
get and to look this good. That's why the people that I'm choosing and that I've chose to be on this podcast are great people. But I'm more concerned of the story. That is why I enjoy podcasts, because I like to see the good people and the famous people, but I want to know your story. I want to know what happened and what took for you to be where you are. I want to know what you lost, or how many times it felt like I wanted to know the details, because that is what's going to keep people going.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many people that are going through the details now in their life, and they don't see it because nobody advertises. Everybody advertises the finish, but nobody ever advertises the middle, the beginning. I always say the beginning and the end is already written. It's that middle part that's going to get you. It's that middle part that's going to shake your faith. It's the middle part that's going to make you think that the ending ain't going to come.
It's going to test you.
But he said, I'm going to give you plans, a hope and a future, bring you to a perfected end.
Absolutely.
So we already know the end is there. It's just that middle part.
Absolutely.
And so that's why now I have to remind myself, man, the end is already written. The end, you gonna be good. You just gotta keep doing the plans. It's like he writes the story and I'm just illustrating. It's like he writes the wreck and you just had to illustrate it. But and he also wrote, you gonna survive, you gonna get this back. But you didn't know, you just working out everything that he written. So now the recovery process. So I know every day wasn't a good day. But so was your relationship with God before the wreck? Was it, how was that? Shaky or strong, or?
It was pretty good. I was raised by a strong Christian family. My father, growing up most of my life, he was mostly apostolic and Pentecostal. My mother's always been traditional Baptist. So You know, some days I'm going to church with pops.
Mm-hmm.
Some days I'm going to church with mom. And like, if you know anything about
Oh, trust me,
Pentecostal,
I grew up Baptist, but now we not denominational.
yeah,
We not the
yeah.
Huck and Buck now.
You know they get down.
Okay.
I mean, any point in time somebody take off, get to running, you know, doing whatever.
It just take one little
Yeah,
word.
anything. So you know, just kind of diving into those different worlds, and I love that because again, it gives me a different perspective, and I was able to see, okay, this is one culture and how they kind of do things, and this is how this culture does things, and just kind of finding that middle ground to help me to find my own identity as to God, what are you to me? You know, what do you look like to me? What does your voice sound like to me? Everybody else talking about they done heard you, or you know they've heard the plans you have for my life. You tell that to me. You know, like you know, what is that you have for me?
Because it's one thing, and I think last year, the beginning of last year, I wrote 12 things I wanted God to do for me, 5 things I wanted to get rid of, and 5 things I wanted to achieve. One of the things that I wanted God to do for me was to give me my own testimony.
Okay.
I said, because I know you to be my grandmother's God. I know you to be my mama's, my aunt's. I know that you're God, and I know that you're God for other people, and I've seen what you did in them. I said, but I want my own testimony.
Absolutely.
Because it hits different when you can testify about something for yourself.
Absolutely.
Not off of, okay, I know you survived the race. And it'll hit you different because you was in it. It won't hit me there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wasn't about to give up. Like, I want my own testimony.
Yeah.
And so he gave it to me. And so now certain subjects, when I talk about or when I talk about it to other people, I can get deep with them because I was there. Like, I've been there. I know how you feel. So the recovery process.
Oh man.
How did that strengthen your walk? And did it ever get to a point to where you question?
Yes, 1,000 times, yes, man. Hell, and the beauty of that is, and again, my pastor has been influential throughout this entire process. He is actually a younger guy. He's new, and when I got into the rec, he wasn't our pastor, you know. So when I come back and I'm going to church, I'm like, who is this man? You know. But yes, I've definitely been through those trials, as far as just questioning God. And the number one question that I asked, and you know, just many times just broke down, it's like, God, why me? Why me? You got all these terrible people in the world. You have killers, you have rapists, you have this, you have that, and out of all the people in the world, you chose me for this to happen to. God, I just graduated college. You know, I was big man on campus. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You know, I have this network of friends. I have this community. I just got a job. I had a job lined up before I even graduated, walked across the stage from Coastal Carolina. And it's like, I was on cloud 9. And then it was just a steep drop off. We went downhill. And you have those moments where you're asking God, you know, where are you? And I know this is a Christian podcast and stuff like that, but I can't help but think about training day. You know, with this like, you think you could do this to me? You think, and I was having those conversations with God. It's like, God, come on now. I done gave you everything. I've devoted 22 years of my life to you. I walk according to your path to the best of my ability. And again, out of all of these bad people in the world, you chose for this to happen to me. You chose for this to happen to my family. You chose for my mom to lose her son. You chose for my dad to lose his son. My brother to lose his brother. And it's like, I finally got to a point, and no, it was not overnight, but the cry out to God went from why me to why not me. Because I think about, you know, how we started this podcast off. You talking about the things as far as what I want to do when I got older, or the calling I have upon my life to be a motivational speaker, and so on and so forth. And I couldn't have this story without that moment in time. And I started to put things and compartmentalize things in my life. So, you know, I recognized that wreck as a moment in time. Not necessarily my identity. And for a while, it became my identity. I was walking, living, breathing that trauma every single day. And when I finally, there's a song, Let Go by Dwayne Woods. And when I tell you I was sobbing, you know, one of the first time I heard that song.
Is as soon as I start worrying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, yeah.
I let go and I let God, you know, let God have his way. Because and that's one of the lessons that I've learned throughout this entire process is God wanted me to let go. I'm so used to being in control. I'm so used to I'm the brother. My outfit is laid out the day before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I leave as little up to chance as possible. And God was like, I'm gonna put you in a position where you got to solely depend on me. You're not gonna have nothing else. You're not gonna have like the money don't matter when you down and out like that. You know, the accolades, the girls, you know, just the notoriety. You don't care about none of that. All you want to do is get better. And in those moments, you realize that there are only certain things in life that only God can fix. Man can break it, but only God can fix it. You know what I'm saying? So just going through those moments, and I gave up on God. You know, there was a time because it's like, you know, again, you put me through this. You know, I've been nothing but faithful to you. You know, it's how is this going to help me? How is this going to benefit me? How dare you? You know, it's like, you know, it's my ego, my pride talking to God. J. Cole is one of my favorite artists, and he has a song called Pride is the Devil. You know, and that's a fact. The pride held me back in my progression back for so long because I couldn't, first of all, I wouldn't allow myself to grieve. Because as long as I deflected it and pretended that it didn't happen or, you know, just went on about my life, it didn't exist. But God kept putting me in circumstances, situations where it's like, nah, you got to face this head on. There was one turning point, and I'll never forget it. I had just finished therapy, and it was like one of my better days in therapy. You know, my muscles and everything was moving good. You know, my recall skills were getting better and everything. And me and my dad, there's a little restaurant, you know, not too far from the facility I was, you know, doing rehab in. I think it was called Park South. It's right there in Charlotte. Well, right here in Charlotte. And we were just sitting there, you know, me and Dad chopping it up, you know, doing what we do. And this woman just comes over, and she's like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, you know, because, you know, the scar. She's like, "That scar." And, you know, she goes into telling me about how someone in her family had gone through it, or, you know, something else. She instantly knew what type of scar it was and all that. And in that moment, I could have broke. Because it's like I'm just now starting to feel like me. I'm starting to get my confidence and stuff back a little bit, and then just like that, it's going all over again. Because it's like I want to be normal, you know. Because when you go through anything life changing, life altering, you don't feel normal in those instances. And it was just a subtle reminder that, like, you are not you. Comparison is the thief of joy. But nobody talks about when you're comparing yourself to your old self. And that's where that song, like that's why I was breaking down like that, because I had to let go. I had to let go of Mr. Rambler. I had to let go of all the accolades and all the things of the, you know, the world, and just be me and the new me. Because and you question it in those times, you know, are people still going to accept me, or are people still going to love me, you know, because I'm not that person that you loved or you couldn't be. One of my best friends, we were out one day and grabbing food and stuff as usual, just chilling. And, you know, we would drink from time to time. And this particular instance, he didn't drink. He was like, and it wasn't the fact that he didn't drink, but he made note of, he was like, "Nah, I ain't gonna do it." I'm like, "Not do what?" He's like, "I'm not gonna get a drink." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "You know, because you here with me." He's like, "You know, that's something that we used to do together." And it's like, again, I could have broke, you know, because it's like, man, you're making this situation I'm trying to bury, you're bringing it to the forefront.
It's almost like losing a relative or grieving a person that passes away. People always say I'm trying to get back to the old me,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, you can't because the old them had that person
Mm-hmm.
that where is no longer here. So you'll never be able to go back to the old you because that old you, your life was with them. So
Yeah.
now you're having to rebuild
Yeah.
this life. And so I have a friend who lost his mom,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to rebuild his life
Yeah.
because this person, well, his mom, gave life, like
Yeah.
she brought him into
Yeah.
the world,
Yeah.
and now she's gone. So everything that I knew is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't depend on this person anymore because they're no longer here.
Yeah.
So it's like starting over. Like I'm having to learn how to be alone. I'm having to learn how to deal with things that I would normally let her deal with. So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's healthy that you let yourself grieve because you had to finally realize, okay, this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll never be the same again.
Ever.
I'll never be able to. I don't know if you can't do certain things that you normally, could before, but
Yeah.
I'll never be the same. Like, I have this.
Yeah.
So I know it left a lot of physical scars.
Mm-hmm.
So did your view on the scars change, or how was it a big thing?
Um, it was, and just reflecting on it right now, in this moment, it just kind of again made it real, you know. So when you're going through stuff like that, you have to have a certain level of delusion to survive. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And my friends will say that because when I tell you my sense of humor was dark, and it still is. Oh, God forgive me, because like my sense of humor is terrible. A lot of serious moments. I can make light of them. I don't necessarily make light of them in the moment, but and that's how I was able to deal with rough situations, and people around me didn't understand that.
Because it's kind of like that saying, you have to laugh to literally keep from crying.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, when these bad things happen, and I'm the one calling myself helmet head and talk about my scars and just stuff like that, and people are like, stop saying that. Every time you talk about dying, I would talk about dying a lot. It's like, I did die just a couple days ago and stuff like that.
So is that a way for you to force yourself to accept it, or is that like a defense mechanism because you don't want, because if you hear from somebody else, you can say, I've already heard it. Or so what was that?
It was definitely a defense mechanism. So and honestly, it probably started after that time in the restaurant with that lady, because I saw within myself that, okay, this is something that you haven't healed from. This is still a touchy subject. Even though you're getting better, you don't have the helmet on and stuff no more. But it's like you're gonna have these scars until you return to God again. So how are you gonna deal with this and live with this? People gonna stare at you. These things are just naturally gonna happen. And it was kind of my way of taking ownership of the situation. So it's like, again, my scars don't define me. I define the scars, and it was definitely a defense mechanism. And still to this day, my boys, they don't even like talking to me, especially especially if we start talking anything remotely about death or the wreck in general. Like, nah, y'all know he about to go crazy with it.
So now is it a defense mechanism, or now it's just, I'm just making light of what I've been through?
Yeah, it's making light, and to me it's funny. I can laugh
Yeah.
at it because I'm the one who went through it. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be over there laughing, and you'll see people that a little nervous, especially if people don't really know me, and they're like, I'm like, no, it's perfectly fine. Or that's how I get people to feel comfortable about the scars, because some people look at it and not really know, especially before I am what you see right now. And that was kind of my way of saying, it's okay. Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes,
Yeah.
I have scars.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And that's what it is now. To make other people comfortable with the presence or
Right.
whatever else, to talk junk about it.
So during this recovery process, I don't know if you know much about it, but how did it affect your parents' faith? And because I know they were two different faith walks. Because so your mom recovered. So what was her?
She's still recovering. So I think she had a punctured kidney or lung,
Mm-hmm.
one of those. Um, and she had her own physical injury, and she's still dealing with it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about me, I got youth on my side.
Mm.
I can heal. I've had the medication and everything else, but if you've had past traumas already, or you've already been in wrecks, and you already have underlying ailments, that stuff kind of
Yeah.
comes to the forefront. So I mean, my mom, she's still dealing with stuff to this day from the wreck that she may never heal from.
Yeah.
Um, and it definitely, oh man, yeah, it caused a little a wrench in the household. Just
Mm-hmm.
as far as the day to day, because you have different moments, and my dad will never be able to. We can't go back in time and he be in the car. So
Mm-hmm.
he's never going to be able to feel it from the perspective of me and my mother.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that were actually in there, and we can't feel it from his perspective, because
Right.
I can't tell you. I don't have my family yet, but I aspire to have one day. So it's, if I get that call and you telling me that my baby boy and my wife and my son is what,
Mm-hmm.
he's dead right now.
Yeah.
Because I actually coded twice throughout that
Wow.
process. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you never know, like, for your dad, and you say that you're the type of person. So is your dad like you? Like, he has his things already lined up.
you know, at times,
Okay.
at times, at times.
So you never really, and they may never ever tell you what the wreck really did for them, because it could have shown your dad another side of God that he hadn't seen, and it could have put him in a place, the same place it put you in was, if you don't do this, God, can't nobody else do this.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it built him. I'm sure it built your entire household.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were so many angels dispatched
The
to
community.
because I remember when it happened, you were in the newspaper.
Oh man.
Like, so many people were talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think you were in the newspaper. Or it was on Facebook. Somehow I
It
knew
was
about it because
Facebook.
I had seen you on Facebook, and then I remember seeing the story shared all over.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then your recovery process, I think somebody posted pictures, maybe you or something, but you were learning how to walk and all this. And I was
Yeah.
looking at the journey, and I said, wow.
Yeah.
So after the recovery, after you get you back together and you're introduced to this new Evan, at what moment did you start embracing it? You say, okay, you obviously did this for a reason, so how can I use this to bring everybody back to you?
Much like God, it was in process, so it just learning how to take a walk, just those first steps and the first everything, just gripping a pencil, having to write again, just the little things again that you take for granted. That those moments, they were tough, they were challenging. I'm not here today without them, and that even goes down to like some of the therapists, because even after, the helmet came off and I'm better and everything else, you still have new therapy, and again that brings to the forefront the things you're still struggling with, the right side weakness, having to learn how to write again legibly, just having to learn to do speech therapy and stuff like that, and thinking, like truly doing critical thinking.
Really?
I mean, because in those therapy sessions and stuff, you're doing stuff to challenge you and to think more or less outside the box, but also doing the day-to-day routine. So the crazy thing about what I experienced, and especially that first bit of recovery, my long term was intact. I never lost my long term memory, more or less. I was talking about family members have been dead and gone for years, and I'm talking about like I just saw them yesterday, because that's where my mind was. So, but I couldn't tell you what I just ate for breakfast. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't tell you what happened 10 minutes ago,
Yeah.
but I could tell you something that happened 2 years ago. And along those same lines, I still can't tell you to this day about the wreck. I don't remember it. And of course, there's so many people that say, that's God's way of protecting you. That's God's way of, keeping you covered and all that good stuff. But at the same time, the pride again, it's like, who are you to tell me about the worst experience? Hopefully, God, the worst experience I ever have to go through in my life. You're going to tell me how I should feel about it, or, to be grateful. And it's like, okay, grateful for, death, grateful for my life being completely changed, relationships change, and it's, people will sit there and tell you to be grateful for those things. And of course, in hindsight, and as time moved on, yes, grateful, I can see the bigger picture. But in those moments, it's like, man,
Yeah.
first of all, this kind of shifting just a little bit. I'm sorry, but the only emotion, especially as black men, that we're taught to have is what?
You can't cry. I know that.
Anger.
Yeah.
I was angry at the world. I mean, just rage. Like I mean, that's the only emotion I had. Only emotion. I mean, even to the point, and there was a time where I became obsessed with the individual that caused all of this. I'm talking about, finding every single portion and, who they are, where they live, who they're connected to, and so on and so forth.
You went that far. I can get it, though.
Yeah.
I can get it.
Just
Because it's almost, I can get it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was the premature you, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is so crazy. Like, God doesn't make any mistakes whatsoever.
And that's good, though. So I got to stop you. Because I've been thinking, and I've been, like, thinking about this all week and saying it to myself. And I was even talking to my cousin, and I said, if God's plans for us are to give us a perfected end, and if he's made all of these promises, and that means anything that bad, and if it's from him, we're going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, he's already said, like, he's going to make sure we're good as long as he approves it.
Yeah.
Like,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah, go ahead.
When is the time that you value things the most?
After you lost him.
Exactly. After I lost God, I valued him the most. After I lost my ability to walk, after I was paralyzed on my right side, I valued it the most. After I couldn't drive, I valued my car the most. You don't realize the value of something until you lose it. And the whole time, and that was the beautiful piece of it, is that everything that I lost, material, relationships, whatever else, I never lost God. God's like, I'm right there with you the whole time. And once I started to realize that, and that started to click, and it's like, he's still with you. And then that's when the wheels started turning, as in, you asked for this, you brought this upon yourself. You asked God for the story. You asked God for the story. Here it is. You got to be the author. You got to you got to paint the picture.
I'll give you the test and the testimony. It's up to you what to do with it.
And not only that and oh man, I got to the point where I reached that level of peace that they talk about that surpasses all understanding. And it's like, I got to a point even in those bad days where it's like, God, if you never do anything else for me, you've already done more than enough. You brought me back to life. You put breath back into my body. You allowed me to, even though I'm limping, I'm still, and that's just the type of mind that I have. So I was always ahead. Like, I've always been the person you talk about, well, it's like, oh, well, you were ahead of the curve with this. You were accelerated, so on and so forth. And even in the midst of my trauma, I was advanced. Because people were sitting there like, it's like, I've never seen anybody who's going through this type of trauma react in this type of way. And it's like, so pretty much God said, if this had to happen, I needed it to happen at this point in time to you prior to this. So just kind of going throughout all that and just realizing that God paints the perfect picture. Like he's the greatest artist that we'll ever meet. You know, so
Picasso ain't got nothing.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely nothing on God. Leonardo, none of them.
And it's like he doesn't rush his paintings. He may do one paint stroke today and stop and just let it sit and wait till it dry. And it may take years to dry. And he may come and do another one. But it's like at the end,
Yeah.
and when you like stand back and look, you're going to be like, it had to take this amount of time because the details had to be this way, because this detail wouldn't go with this detail unless it happened this way. He's so intentional.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just like, he's so intentional. Like growing up, when I was younger and I would go to church and I would see like the older people and how they would just be so happy in Jesus. Like it didn't take much. I'm like,
walk in the door.
I'm like,
walk
it
in the
don't
door.
take
Sean.
all of that. Like there's no way. Like come on, can we go home?
Yeah.
But I messed around and experienced him for like myself. When I wrote, I want my own. I didn't know what I was asking for. And not to get off of you, but
Oh no, you fine.
we were
Hey.
talking when I wrote, I want to experience it for myself. I didn't know what I was asking for.
Yeah.
And I lost everything that I thought I needed. I had to literally reset my entire life. I really hate to get off of you, but
Oh, you
I
fine.
got to
You
share
fine.
this
You
part.
fine.
So I moved to Charlotte to pursue a relationship. And I thought I was on top of the world. You couldn't tell me nothing.
It happens.
And I was like 21, 22, and I said, oh, I'm in Charlotte in a brand new luxury apartment.
From Lancaster.
From Lancaster.
From Lancaster.
That was my dream, was to move to Charlotte. I said, you couldn't tell me nothing. Brand new 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. Didn't know how stuff was going to get paid, but I said, I'm here. And you couldn't tell me nothing. And I was going. And when I moved to Charlotte, I left God right in Lancaster. I said, I'll pick you back up, or I see you when I come to church Sunday. But you can tell me nothing. Like,
Yep. There you go.
I was so happy living in Charlotte, but I was this brand new person. I feel like when I came to Charlotte, I don't know, like this was just new Mandarius.
Yeah.
Like me going to church started slowing down. I didn't have a desire to go to church like I used to.
Yeah.
I was living life outside. I was outside so much. I said, I'm gonna just build me a little tent outside, because I was like 15 minutes from uptown. From Lancaster, when the biggest building is the hospital.
No,
Like it's just like driving in. I'm like, I don't have to eat the same thing every day.
You feel me?
Like you couldn't tell me this is not where I want it to be, but stuff started happening. Stuff started drying up, and I just was and I started going through stuff, and I was questioning God, like, why am I like, why did you letting this stuff happen to me? And it wasn't until 3 apartments later, and I ended up right back in Lancaster. And I was doing some self-searching last year. So I think I ended up staying. So I moved out when I was like 21, 22. I ended up moving back to Lancaster last year. And I'm just going, and I was driving last week, and I was just going back over my life. And I'm like, dang, the last 4 years of my life was horrible. I'm like, why did this happen? And God told me, he said, I wasn't in none of that. I said, huh? He said, you did that. That was on you.
You feel me?
I was right where you left me when you left me in Lancaster. He said, I stayed right there.
Yeah.
And he was like, none of that was supposed to happen to you.
Yeah.
None of that, those heartaches, those cry, none of that. That wasn't my plan for you. Like, you took that and made that your own plan.
Yeah.
And I said, really? he was like, yeah. But this is why I love him so much. He'll get you out of situations that you get yourself into. Or he'll even, like, all of that, the last 4 years, although it was because they were self-inflicted wounds, because I did it to myself. And he wasn't going to stop me, because he said, if you want to be God, be God. But at the end of the day, you going to need me.
Hey.
You going to come back to me. And so,
that's it.
Literally, what I love about him so much, and now I feel like those old people at church, it don't take much for me to just go up, because you used the time period of my life where I was being God to work for my good, because you love me that much, to where you still gonna use, somehow it's like he's still gonna bring me to that perfected end, but it's like now he had to take a detour because I added some stuff in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. We still gonna get to the end of the book, but it's gonna take a little longer because you done did some stuff that that you weren't supposed to do. And I know for a fact that I'm supposed to be further along than I am, but I can't be mad at nobody but myself.
Oh, yeah.
Because I put this stuff in here. But what I love about him is that he's still going to make it work for me. Absolutely. And he's still going to fix it. Like this podcast and all this stuff. This was stuff that I always wanted to do. But it was pushed behind because I was doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And it's like he has your blessings and all this over here. And he going to give it to you, but you got to be where you're supposed to be. And he couldn't give it to me there when I was in Charlotte, because I would have mishandled it and messed it up. And it wasn't until I came back to Lancaster and started chasing and doing the stuff that I wanted to do was the Uber driver. And all of these doors were opening it. And I said, this has to be you.
Yeah.
When I first put the ad on Facebook about me being a driver for Lancaster, my inbox was blowing up. And I said,
we ain't got it.
I said, this has to be you. Like this... It's so weird how it's just like once I got back in the right place, stuff was just like being thrown at me. And it was like stuff that was being held up. And I'm like, wow.
It was never the seed. It's where you were planted.
Yeah.
So once you were moved and planted into the proper soil, you had no choice but to grow.
Because who's to say I wasn't planted, but I was being watered, but the soil wasn't right. Because the soil wasn't right 4 years ago. I don't care how much water you could have poured Fiji, Aquafina, or Brita. You could have purified.
Like
it wouldn't have grown because that wasn't the soil I was supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So now I see, like, when I go to church now, I understand it does take all that.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't know, like I know, what he's done for me. You can't tell it like I can tell it what the Lord has done for me. So I get it. And I get it.
And one of it's not necessarily a talking point, but it's one of the things that I have wrote in my notes. And it's that a detour takes us to a greater destination. And had this detour in my life not happened, a lot of things would be different. My destination would be different.
You'd be on a whole nother path.
You feel me?
Yeah.
The relationship that I have right now, I would not be in that relationship right now because, quite frankly, I don't know if I would still be in Lancaster had that wreck had not happened. God was like, you need to be still for a moment. And the beautiful thing, and this is no way, shape, or form, saying that the pandemic was a good thing. But what it allowed for me was to grieve in private. So that's how I was able to pop out. And people were like, it looks like nothing ever. We see a scar, but, yes, because you didn't see me for 2 to 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Let me stop you.
I was in hiding. I was in hiding.
Because that's what I was just about to say. Because he hid you on purpose.
Absolutely.
And that's why it had to happen. When it happened, the process had to go, because I think if we weren't in the pandemic and it happened, you would have been able to miss the grieving process or avoid it or delay it, but you had to sit in it.
There's nothing worse than sitting in it.
And you had to First, you had to accept.
Who? Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knew what he was doing
Yeah.
concerning you. Like it literally.
Mm-hmm.
When you get the glory, you're gonna see the book and the story. He gonna say this,
He's
it
supposed
had
to.
to happen. He was gonna like, I
Yeah.
written this before you was born. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you gonna graduate and you gonna be this and you gonna think you the man. But I'm gonna say, all right,
Yeah.
no, I need you now.
And on that same path though is, in order for the people that I want to inspire, I have to know where they are. God is like, I need to take you and let you be at the bottom. Because before I'm in the position in work and life that I am right now, I was working for United Way.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of those scenarios, we're working with the homeless community and stuff like that. And people who literally have nothing to the point where you have to aid in giving them some hope because they don't even have that, just an ounce of hope. And, going through those processes, even going through, what's it called? Vocational rehab, and working again, and pretty much you're just training, getting your motor skills and stuff back. And we're doing, it's pretty much like an assembly line in there. You're doing these different little projects every day. It's routine. And like my life was extremely structured and routine. That's how I was able to survive. Mm-hmm. And even in the midst of that, like I was getting frustrated one day. I was like, man, I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm healing. I'm okay. I'm not who I am right now, but I was better than I was. And I'm like, I don't need to be here. I'm looking around. I was like, that person over there, he has his speech impediment. He's had that since he was born. This person over here, they have this situation, that situation over there. And it's like, they're not going to get any better. It's like, God, why am I here? But also within that, learning to use my hands and stuff again, and even answering the question of, can I stand up for long periods of time?
Mm-hmm.
It can't. It answers so many questions. Everything serves purpose.
I think
everything serves purpose.
It kept you at a humble place.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you were like, I don't need to be here, but I can't move my hand.
Listen, by that point, I was tired of being humble. You know what I'm saying? Because life had humbled me enough.
Yeah.
Again, and that's why it was so difficult at first within the process of getting back to who I am now. It's because I had never been here before. And I was like, God, why did you put me in this predicament? Why did you lead me along this path? But I think about the relationship that I made throughout that and people that I interacted with that I normally would not have. Mm-hmm. And people along my journey, whether it is just talking about the scars or speaking life into something. And it's like I never would have had those experiences or taken my time and taken that detour.
Yeah.
Had that never happened. And even in the midst of my own calamity, I'm sitting there at therapy and I'm like, that person's missing a leg. That person is missing their arm. That person is going to be in the wheelchair for the rest of their life. And it's like even that within itself was motivation because it's like, as bad as things are for me right now, and they may not get better, but it's better than their predicament right now. And I'm better than I was yesterday.
And I got to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Because when you were saying, and I meant to bring it up earlier, but I forgot. And it's just like, when we going through so much, it's hard to be like, okay, I understand what I'm going through now, but God, you didn't kill me. Mm-hmm. You didn't let me die.
And I kid you not, there are times, especially when I was in that middle ground, where I was better, but I was comparing myself, comparison thief of joy. Mm-hmm. I never compared myself to no man, ever. But I was comparing myself to my old self, and that's somebody I can never be again. Even as healed and as healthy as I am right now, I can never be that person again. And then it clicked. He was like, that's the point of life. We're meant to evolve. And who I am right now is a version of myself that I've always wanted to be. Ooh. I just got here a little sooner than what I anticipated. Ooh. You know what I'm saying? That detour. It goes back to the detour. So that detour took me to a level and elevated me to where I wanted to be, but it was sooner. And then even that, like,
And I gotta stop you
yeah, you good, you
again.
good, you good, you good.
I told you it just be coming.
Yeah.
So, and when you got me when you said I got here a little sooner, and as soon as you said that, the Lord said I had to bring you here sooner because I needed you sooner than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way the world is changing now,
Mm.
you were going to be this person, but the way things are going now, I needed you a little sooner.
That's
So I had to hurry up and get you there.
hey, hold on now, hey, cool out.
I promise you,
that-
when you said that, he
Yeah.
said I needed you a little sooner,
'Cause,
so I had to
ooh.
rush it, and that's why everything moves so quickly, and I don't know, but I just feel like you recovered faster than what everybody thought you would have.
Faster than what I thought.
Yeah, because he needs you, and that's the only reason it happened to happen so fast.
Ooh, boy.
Because it's almost like it aged you, because you were 22 at the time, but it's like, okay, you died and you came back this person that's much older, because although you healed and recovered physically, a lot of stuff changed mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So you're going to be able to reach people from your age to up. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything serves purpose. It goes back to purpose. And I have a quote, and I need to get it trademarked. Whatever that process is, I need to start on it, because and look, if I hear you saying this or using my words or whatever, I'm gonna find a way to sue you. I don't know if I can sue you legally, but I'm gonna find a way. But it's a quote that I have, and it's that trauma is a universal language that some are forced to speak fluently.
Say that one more time. Say it slow.
Trauma is a universal language that some are forced to speak fluently.
Break that down.
So we all, as long as we're living, we're not immune to having some form of trauma. And when we think about trauma, we think about amputations and brain injuries or whatever else. But, trauma is not always that grand.
Let me stop you again. I read somewhere trauma is literally whenever your brain stops.
You feel me?
Because I had some trauma growing up, and I often find myself still in that place. And I thought it was something that I was doing wrong, but a therapist or somewhere I read it's literally your brain stopped, and so it's like you're missing moments, so you keep going back to that last moment. Somebody said, or I read somewhere, that it's your brain saving you or something from yourself, because it doesn't remember, or something. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, and that's what, and that goes back to what I was talking about before. People were saying, like, be grateful that you don't remember, or some of that stuff, because I don't. Like, there were times when me and my mother would be talking, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this nurse or that nurse, or remember when this happened? And she was like, yeah, you realize that was after your second stint in the hospital, not the first. So, like, that first period, like that initial, I don't really remember any of that.
And I think that's for your good.
And people, and then that's when it went back to, like, it was like, okay, who are you to tell me that?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and because it takes portions of me away, because I want to remember, I want to go back, and it's also bringing up a point, because you said something that sparked my mind. I should have stopped you there like you do, but I think it was along the lines of the detour. But there was literally a time throughout my process where, I kid you not, I would talk to God at night, and as I say my prayers, even in the hospital, it's like, God, just go ahead and take me in my sleep. I wanted to die. I wanted to die because God did everything besides kill me. You know what I'm saying? He took away all my resources. Your body is your resource. That's your main resources you're ever going to have. And losing that, losing relationships and everything else. And it's like, I'm like, yo, God, if this is all that you have in the cards for me, please take me. I mean, I'm literally, I can't even describe the mental headspace that I was in at that time, but I was literally begging God to take my life, and it got to a point, and this ain't even really anything I talked about with therapist or whatever else, but it's like it got to a point where I romanticize death. But I knew I wasn't the type where I was like, okay, I'm gonna take my own life. I'm gonna take a gun and put it to my head or whatever. But I romanticized it in a way. I say, okay, you know what? If a child is out in the middle of the street, and they about to get hit by a car, I'm pushing them out and getting ran over. Just different scenarios and stuff like that. You know, and during that time, also we're also dealing with like a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, if I'm ever at a protest or something, or if there's ever a point in time where somebody needs to jump in front of a bullet or jump in front of anything that's going to harm somebody else, I'm going to do it. And it's because at that point I thought my best days were behind me. You know what I'm saying? And that was my biggest fear. I was like, God, if you're going to leave me here and all my glory days are in the past, the best I'm ever going to be is in my past, there's no sense in me being here, And it's like, Father, just go ahead and take me. Because if my leg is not going to get any better, if my brain is not going to heal, what's the purpose of me being here? If I can't regain my independence, that's when my Denzel was coming out. Like I was like, it was like, again, you gonna do this to me? It's like, but, and again, I romanticize things in a way where it wouldn't be labeled as a suicide, but I would be able to die and still be glorified to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I go out like that, if I go out by a bullet or I go out by getting hit by a car in another car wreck or whatever the case may be, they'll say good things about me, when I'm gone. They'll remember me in a certain light, and that, oh, he just was never actually recover from his wreck, or he was on his way to recovery but never quite got there because that one thing happened, and it's because I was scared. And I had to look myself in the mirror. It's like, okay, come on, bro. God done put life, breath back into you. Twice. He's giving you a bunch,
Just in case you were unsure, he did it twice.
On more times than one. And, it's like that's a slap in the face to him. You know what I'm saying? God brought you. Yes, you went through this stuff, but he brought you from all of that. And you have a chance to inspire other people who may not see as bad or maybe worse than what you have, and you want to leave because you're scared. Because you're scared. Fear is paralyzing. Fear literally paralyzes you, and it paralyzed me for so long. And yes, all things work together and have purpose. And I even, and as I see, I'm struggling with it now. That's why I'm stuttering a little bit, because on one hand, everything serves purpose. But then I also acknowledge the role that I played in my own suffering, in the prolonging of it. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
So, but then again, it's a double-edged sword. So it's like, yes, I prolonged it, but was that not a part of the script?
That goes back to what I was saying about my little story. Although I did some stuff myself, he still used it. And so I think your stuff was catered specifically for you. Nobody else could have went through that.
Hey, yo, all right, I'm gonna do you like for doing me the whole time. Yes. Yeah. And I knew I reached another level of spirituality and healing along my process when I got to a point when I was like, God, thank you that you let this happen to me. Because had this had been my mother, had this had been my father, or even one of my close friends, and like, I can't tell you, like, I'm talking about some of the toughest brothers I know, and like, they like, man, I would have tapped out, bro. I would have hooked myself. I don't care what you talking about, like, all that stuff you done had to go through. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, bro, ain't no way.
Yeah.
Ain't no way you saying this. You the toughest person I know. You the toughest person I ever met in my life. And it goes throughout, and it's like you're saying, God designed this strictly for me, because he knew. He said, not only am I going to put you through this, but I'm not going to put you through something I know you're not strong enough to handle. Otherwise, he would have left me alone.
And you'd have been on your way doing what you was doing.
Doing whatever it is what I'm doing. Living how I'm living. Because again, I'm fresh out of college, so everything a party.
And then you don't know what would have happened if he didn't send you through this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know if you still would have been here. If you would have been on your way on life number 1, but now you on life number 3.
Yeah, hey.
So when I tell you may think the wreck was the worst thing.
Yeah.
But you really don't even know what could have happened and probably should have, would have happened if he didn't save you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I know that you're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish we could talk about this all day because
I
feel like 2 old people. So I know that you're public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're speaking at a lot of places.
Uh-huh.
So how do they book you or get in contact with you? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't want you to come to their church after this.
Absolutely. And then I'm glad, because that's going to put a fire under me a little bit. Because there are things in place. Like I actually have like a logo. I have my own logo, and I just need to get, a phone number set up and business cards and all that. But there are things in place that just more or less need to get done. But for the most part, for the people that would like me to do that type of stuff that do not have my personal number or whatever, social media, Facebook, Instagram DM, Twitter, whatever else, that's a great way to get at me.
What's your name on Facebook for them?
Evan Austin. It's just my name. EAVEN, Heaven minus the H. Last name Austin's. I do not have the power, but Austin is my last name. Quick sidetrack. I was a part of this organization called a Bevy, and I was actually with them this past weekend, and things are centered around passion, path, and purpose, change, progression, and growth, and just everything about the organization I love. And just Bryant Kirk White is the owner, CEO, the initiator of a Bevy, and he introduced himself as Bryant like Kobe, Kurt like Franklin, and White like the color. Mm-hmm. But he says he's from not necessarily Chucktown, but he got a little accent to it, so he say color is color. Mm-hmm. So I started playing around. I was like, okay, Evan like heaven, Alexander like the great, and Austin like powers. So but that's his thing. I'm not gonna steal it. But yeah, so just. Evan Austin, Heaven minus the H, just get at me that way. And I'm going to tell you, like I done told a few other people, you better get me while I'm cheap, while I'm local.
You about to blow.
While I'm cheap and while I'm local. And then I'm glad you said churches. You said churches in particular. For a while, I wanted to separate myself from that too, because it's like, I don't want people thinking I'm a pastor now, or that, and just black culture. Yeah, they love to put it on you. Oh, you got an anointing on you. Okay. You got an anointing on you. The Lord go use it. It's like, yeah, the Lord go use me.
Yeah, but somewhere else.
Yeah. And then that's even along those lines. I shied away from that, not because I don't love the Lord or I don't think I can be a good pastor or whatever else, but that title is intimidating. Mm-hmm. Me being a motivational speaker opens the door. I can go into the prisons. I can go into the churches. Right. I can go anywhere. And people are like, oh, yeah, you be speaking and uplifting. Right. Now you got the masters of it, the Eric Thomases of the world that, they could do all that. But it's like, you're going to separate that. But
Evan, I'm so glad you came.
Yeah, hey.
I feel like we just had a little one-day revival.
And look, and after this camera go on, we probably still gonna be talking, going over stuff, and it'll be stuff that we'll be sitting there saying, "Oh, we should have got that on camera. We should have talked about that."
You'll be back. You'll be back with your mom. Yeah, because they're gonna want to know more.
For sure.
I can just see comments now.
For sure.
I'm so glad that you stopped by.
See if there's anything else. Because look, my girlfriend, she calls me the walking fortune cookie. Like, there's always a word for something. There's always a word for something.
So if you can give a last little saying or encouraging word to the viewers, what would it be?
Let's see.
Somebody that maybe have went through a traumatic event that is trying to question their existence, or someone that may have just went through one and is healing, or
Yeah.
at that place that you once were, because no advice is better than advice from a person who's been where they are.
Yeah.
So what would you give somebody who is going through something that you were going through or went through?
Don't make it your identity. Your circumstances are not your identity. And it doesn't have to be something traumatic, like a traumatic brain injury or any type of injury whatsoever. But if your fun's looking funny, if whatever, that doesn't define you. I told you a little bit about the broken crayon still color that I did, and the whole point is, at the end of the day, I don't care if you break the crayon, whatever else, its identity never changed. It's still a crayon, and the art that it leaves behind is what matters. So inspire, do what you can to influence somebody, retrain your mind to think positively when things happen to you, they're happening for you. Everything that you go through in life as an opportunity to grow and get better and inspire somebody else, and that we need each other.
Yeah.
It's only so much I can do as me, and ain't nobody bigger than God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, family. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Faith and Fun. We'll see you next Sunday.